Greetings, greetings, greetings. Good morning and good evening to some. All right. So today's episode is all about purpose, not just creating content, not just building a business, but leading with intention. Linzi Boyd is here to help us unpack how creators and entrepreneurs can build something that truly matters. Lindsay is the founder of One Earth. She's an author and also a global speaker. I had her on 3 years ago, but this time we have her here live all the way from the UK. So please help me give a warm welcome to Lindsay Boyd. Lindsay!
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm in a not so sunny England, even though it's summer.
Not so sunny. All right. Well, Lindsay, listen, I am excited to have you here. Of course, welcome back. I want to say, like I said,
Thank
it's been 3 years, and of course, we have a whole lot to catch up on. And man, I'm just glad to have you. I want to say I appreciate you making some time to be here. So, for those that don't know why, you're probably saying, why did Brian go live at 11 o'clock? But it's because Lindsay's in the UK. So but she made time for me today, so we got her here. So
you.
we're gonna.
Always.
Yes, yes, yes. We have a great connection. We do. We really do have a great bond, and since we got connected, but Lindsay, I want to say I appreciate you being here. Of course, a lot of people don't know who you are, Lindsay. I know quite a bit about you, and I know a little bit more than they do, but we want to introduce you again to our audience, of course. And before we do that, of course, Lindsay, right now she's in the UK. She just finished up uh, London Tech Week or Tech Week in London, and but she currently lives in Bali, right? So she made transition from the UK to Bali. So that is, I don't know how you did it, Lindsay. So maybe you want to share with us how you did this transition from the UK to Bali.
So, first off, thanks so much for inviting me back after 3 years, and we've kept
I
that
know.
relationship going.
Yes.
Can't believe it's been that long. When I was living in the UK, I did the podcast with you.
Hmm.
So, no, it must be more than 3 years because
It
I've
could
been
be.
in
It's
Bali three
yeah.
and a
It's
half
a
years.
yeah. It's like 3.5. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. So I think I must have left straight after I did the interview. So look, I am one of those crazy serial entrepreneurs that left school at a very young age of 15 and went on to build a number of different businesses, which I sold, a couple of them before the age of 24. And I've been building consumer brands for 17 years and then transitioned over to building enterprise businesses that lead with impact and purpose. And when I left the consumer world, I always said, I want to shift the world into a new era. I wanted to build brands that were literally going to shift industries and make a positive change in the world. And I ran business schools around the world. And every time I would say, what if we could connect developed, emerging, and developed and developing countries? And what if everybody could be seen and heard, no matter where you live or the demographic that you live in? But I'd never lived in an emerging market. And so, even though my intention and for my business was to have developed and developing countries being seen and heard around the world, I hadn't lived in one. So my best friends moved to Bali in Indonesia, which is very much an emerging market. We went on holiday to see them, and they kind of said, they knew what my vision was, my purpose, what I stood for, what I wanted to be known for. And they were like, why don't you move to Bali and learn about a culture, an emerging market, live in one, and understand how would you build out an emerging market as well as building out developed. And I'd obviously worked in England and America and Canada and Australia and all these different places, but never in an emerging. So 3.5 years after I did the podcast with you, I packed up my family, my at the time 15-year-old and my 11-year-old. And basically, we moved to Bali and we've lived there for 3.5 years, coming on 4 years in January.
Wow. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how do you just pack up and move to a whole another part of the world? Like I'm trying to figure out, we look at different cities and it's we have trouble trying to figure out, okay, how's the school, but you went to a whole nother part of the world and that's just amazing in itself. I don't know how you did that, but I guess you did.
Look,
You're doing it. I mean, you're doing it well, right?
you know, like my kids were in private schools in England, and we had we were one of those traditional business,
Hmm.
families, two entrepreneurs, middle class, trying to get our kids and our through schools, and doing the best that we can, and all that kind of stuff. And it was actually my son that said to us, sat us down, and said, "Look, I feel like we should move because in 10 years from now, you're going to regret not actually."
Mm.
Moving to Bali, and we will have left home. And so that was a bit of the deciding factor, my son saying to us we should move. so so yeah, we ended up getting on a plane and moving over there.
Wow. And so the transition, you're there now, and so everything is y'all. I mean, of course, you've been welcomed, of course, by the culture, by the people, and all of that. So things are going very well for you guys, right?
Yeah, so look, we moved over there, and what it enabled me to do was work with different countries around Asia and be able to speak. I mean, I'm a global speaker, so I was then. I
Hmm.
just actually I came over to New York to speak for with YPO and the United Nations recently, a couple of weeks ago. But that was all around how do we work with emerging markets and how do we bring data sovereignty and purpose-led economies through emerging markets. And 3.5, 4 years ago, I would never have been able to sit in a room like that and really speak from a place of authenticity, from actually living in an emerging market and understanding what the culture is, what the businesses are, how do the families come together, what is it that the people need on the ground, not just go, oh, I think that this would work over there, but actually have first-hand knowledge of of understanding what that looks like. And now I have a partner as well in Bangladesh who's got this incredible purpose-led agency. We're looking at doing a big project over in Bangladesh, and it just means that we can now not only go across developed but also developing countries and be able to do what I always wanted to do, which was allow everybody to be seen and heard, no
Hmm.
matter where you live, the demographic that you live in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that really resonated, I think, with me and just your message and how you try to connect with everyone from all walks of life, but especially too with you transitioning from maybe a economic style of business to a purpose driven business, which we're going to talk about more in this conversation. But before we jump into that, I want to just say hello to some people in the chat right now. Let's see, Jeremy Reese. He states, ready for a great interview. Thank you for being here, Mr. Reese. And he also, as you was talking about your business is at 15. Yeah, I know. When I read that, that is just crazy. Like she left school at 15. I'm like, there's no way my parents are going to let me do that.
Oh, it took a lot of persuading, trust me.
All right. Abe Geek. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. Abe Geek, ILO Plain says redeem timer or read timer. All right. And then David Beasley says, hi, of course. All right. Well, appreciate y'all being here. I want to say as well as we go through this conversation, don't forget to like. Also, you can subscribe to this channel. Also, if you got questions for Linzi, put those in the chat and we'll try to get to some of those questions you may have for her. I would suggest that you put a Q in front of it just so that we know that it is a question. Okay, so Linzi, before we talk about maybe some of the purpose-driven content, and that's kind of what this conversation is about. How creators and entrepreneurs can really create something meaningful because that's like your whole mission. But before we jump into that, Linzi, I want to say Linzi is a very busy person. So for her to even make time for me today, I just feel really honored and special. I appreciate it, Linzi, because I know you've been very busy. But I want to talk about Tech Week and just some of the things that you have to experience in Tech Week. Of course, here's some of the photos. Of course, we have your host, some of the hosts that you hosted with. Here's you with the astronaut that you got to interview. Of course, Prince William was there, and I know you got to do a ton of interviews, conversations that you're gonna have and treasure for a lifetime. But tell me, I guess, and maybe some of those that listen, like that experience, just being able to be in the room with some of those visionary leaders and the conversations that you were able to have.
Look, I've been building businesses, yeah, my whole career since the age of 18. And so, like I said, I've always had this privilege of being able to be with, like, business leaders, entrepreneurs. When I was in the consumer world, it was, big brands like G-Star, Superdry, Wrangler, Lacoste that I built out. And then when I transitioned over to the enterprise world, I was very fortunate and have been fortunate to spend a lot of time with, leaders of industry, leaders of societal causes, some world leaders. And so being invited to London Tech Week to co-host London Tech Week, this was my third year of co-hosting it. And you saw my colleagues that I'm hosting it with, is a real kind of honor, but also it's super energizing because I get to, in over 3 days, it's like hyperspeed interview these leaders of, industries. Like, I don't know if you know a company called Vinted. It's a very big secondhand company in the UK and Europe. They're valued at billions. I interviewed the CEO of the marketplace of Vinted. Airwallex, which is the big payment gateway. It's like Wise, Airwallex. When you want to go and have a bank account abroad, the CEO of that I interviewed. Astronauts, like all
Yeah.
different people that you over 3 days get to interview and ask all these different questions for 3 minutes, but also for 20 minutes. And you know for me, it's about really understanding and exploring in this environment, where is technology leading, but how are we leading with the human response? How is it that it's going to be purpose led? How do we make sure that, these companies are kind of looking at AI from a responsible lens and not just making it AI, from an efficiency point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to ask, all these incredible people, what they're doing and how they're doing it and how they're driving purpose into everything that they do.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, with all those, I guess with all those people in the room, I'm wondering, like, what conversation maybe impressed you the most, and as far as like what your vision and you doing, having a purpose driven style of business, do you think that they were responsive to that? And what conversations, I guess, you come away with where you see that they're kind of picking that up.
It's interesting that you asked that, because there's not one conversation when you're doing this, when you're co-hosting and you're going across multiple interviews, because each one provides this incredible insight into these brains of these people. The lady that was from Airwallex, who I got to interview, she was 25. She invested 1 million into her business, and now she's 35. It's worth 8 billion.
Wow.
um, and she's from Singapore. And when I spoke to her about impact and putting this through the impact lens, she literally lit up and was like, "That's exactly what we're doing. That's our next phase. That's where we're moving to." And then you start to have these very interesting conversations off camera as well as on, around where the future lies. I also interviewed a guy who's kind of what I called the royalty of VCs, venture capitalists, who'd invested in 1,500 businesses based in America, but also opened up an office in the UK. And he was so different from
Hmm.
what I come across from a VC typically. He was very visionary, very big thinking, looking for people that can solve problems for humanity and not just look at it from a business lens. And that was where I really felt, from my perspective, the conversations when you interview these people are heading. It's no longer that they're just looking at it from a business perspective. You know, the guy from Vintage said, I feel like I've got a big responsibility
Hmm.
in the world now because of what he's doing and how he's trying to shift over the fashion industry, you know, and be able to be a leader in that space. And a lot of these people are leaders of industries. And with that becomes a responsibility because you're having to think about not only scaling up a business, but how you're impacting change and how you're creating an environment that's, you know, looking after the people and and the people that work with you and inside organizations, and doing that from a circular space rather than it being linear, which was how it used to be.
Yes. Yes, and of course, for those that are watching, these are some of the photos I just took from actually Lindsay's profile. But that's her, co-host, of course. And she, like I said, she got to interview the astronaut, and Prince William was in the room, of course. And I mean, you got so many people in the room there to have these conversations with. So I want to ask you this, Lindsay, in regards to conversations, and actually, our connection started with a conversation, but how important is it that we have conversations? Like, you got a chance to speak with all these visionary leaders, but how important is it to have conversations?
I would say the number one thing that we all now need to be able to do is have conversations, because the human skills side of where we're moving to with AI coming into play is probably one of your highest commodities. And if you look at that and you recognize that conversations is one layer, and then you think about creativity, how do you collaborate with people from a creative standpoint and no longer come at something from a fear perspective?
Mm.
And then obviously the third layer of that is, how do you lead with impact and purpose? So what I get people to do when they're having conversations, we just ran a big summit in America, in Denver, Colorado. We did a partnership with Rocky Mountain PBS. And we were with the president of PBS, Amanda, who's a phenomenal lady. And we ran a summit for the day, and we also ran a workshop. And in my workshop, there was like 87 businesses, and I got them all to think about, what do they stand for? What are they known for? And in the coffee break, they had to go and introduce themselves as their purpose. And they weren't allowed to introduce themselves as their commodity, like, you know, I'm an education business, I'm an app, whatever it might be. And when they came back in the room from these conversations, what they recognized was that the partnerships and the relationships that they created in such a short space of time elevated what would have naturally closed down a conversation. So you turn around and you go, you know, okay, I'm a real estate company, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's nice. But this guy who had a huge real estate business turned around and said, you know, I'm going to be the kind of, we're looking at the sovereign of how America is being portrayed. And, you know, he wanted to be the, create this stance around being an ambassador for that. And I was like, okay, that's a really interesting conversation. So conversations are super important, but the content within conversations is as important
Mm.
as the conversation itself.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. So let me ask you this: were you were you nervous interviewing any of these visionary leaders. And I'm asking that because I think a lot of people, just like we're talking about conversations. Conversations are important. The content, like you state, is important. But I think, as you also stated, I think sometimes fear holds people back from having conversations, from reaching out to people to have these conversations. Just like me and you right now, we're having this conversation. You know, I've reached out to you, of course, and you obliged, of course, but these conversations are important. So I think sometimes fear holds people back from just even reaching out because you never know what the outcome could be. But were you nervous at any point in interviewing all of these leaders?
Um, I wouldn't say that I'm nervous. I would say I get more excited actually.
You're a pro at
um,
this.
and it's not so, look, yeah, I mean, I've presented television programs and I've done different interviews and so forth. And of course, when you're going to interview someone, you're also, I don't do loads and loads of prep beforehand because I find that I get the magic when I'm in the
Mm,
conversation. And the more prep that I do behind the scene actually loses its magic. So I always find that I'll do a tiny bit of prep and I'll have some questions. But really, what I try and do is just listen and
mhm,
really engage with the conversation. I know people have imposter syndrome, and I've
mm,
always tried to help people. I think because I was the one at school, right, that left school at a young age. Yes, I was smart, but I was streetwise. I wasn't so much like the academic person. So, I said this to my husband. I was very driven and all very, very determined and always put people first. And so when you have that mindset, you're not there feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail at something because you're not necessarily the best person in the room. And so it kind of gives you a bit more drive and guts to be able to go and do things and go into an I can attitude rather than being in a space of fear that I teach people holds people back. The biggest problem that people have is limiting beliefs that they can't do something. And they can be the cleverest or the most successful, but they're not going to put themselves forward because that fear or those limiting beliefs are going to stop them from doing it. So maybe I'm that one that, that always kind of goes front forward and enjoys more the energy of that and the conversations around that and kind of goes into a performance state and and really listens to what people have got to say.
yeah. No, you're you are definitely good at what you do. I mean, like you said, leaving at 15, but like you said, you were even leaving at 15, you were level headed, you were grounded, of course, but at the same time, you were good at what you did because I think the person that you were working for, he saw how good you were, and they just kind of just let you have the floor, and you just kind of took off. So I think that's important too to talk about imposter syndrome because you said the limiting beliefs I think is killer for many entrepreneurs and creators. You know,
Yeah.
it destroys. I mean, it holds us back. I guess you could say.
It's interesting. When I was 15, there was a guy called Carl. I think I did a post on this, and he follows my social media, and I was working for him as a Saturday girl, and I went in every single week, every Saturday for a month, and asked him for a job, and eventually, after a year, he turned around and said, "God, will somebody give this girl a job?" And I ended up being his best sales girl. And then he took my dad out to persuade my dad to let me leave school because my dad was, a dentist and I came from an academic background. And, and in fairness to my dad, he let me leave school because, Carl had said that he would, he was going to employ me and I was going to have a full-time job. And then basically I ended up running Carl's shop at the age of 18 and got headhunted not long after that from the shop down the road. And basically, I went into partnership with that guy and brought Diesel and Replay into the north of England at the age of 18. And then basically at 21, I sold that company, set up a footwear company with my then shoe designer partner. And, we went on to scale up the company in 7 different global channels around the world. We're in 7 countries. We were selling hundreds of thousands of shoes. We had them in the design museum. And sold the company to Caterpillar when I was 25. So it was a bit of a ride. And I think if you have imposter syndrome, you wouldn't put yourself forward like that.
Hmm.
You have to
I agree.
put your drive and determination there and actually just go play this game full out. You're in the game of life. And and also when you're younger, you don't have that same thought process maybe of responsibility that you have when you're older and you've got kids and houses and all that kind of stuff. But still, as I've got older, I always go, yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna make that happen. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it does, it does.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And I think in our last interview you talked about that. Like you talked about failure where, all of us fail. We all fail, and of course you talked about how you failed several times. But do you think like I guess
Several hundred
yeah.
times.
And see that's what people don't know, but that's why these conversations are important. They hear you, oh, she left school at 15 and she just started working and she built a business at 18 and she did all of these different brands, but they don't know all the failures that you've had, all the the problems that you ran into. But I mean, it's doable. But in regards to imposter syndrome, as you say, do you think people just need to have that just go for it attitude and just kick it to the side?
I've always said to people, give that imposter a name. So,
Mm.
I've got mine's called Veruca. Not that it's imposter syndrome. For me, she's more the girl that does the tantrums sometimes. And so you give the imposter a name, you say thanks for that, and you kick them into the back of the car and you say to them, I'm driving the car. And then that way you acknowledge that there is a person there. You've basically given that person a name, but you are driving the car. And you basically just put one foot in front of the other. And however scary it is, or however much you get into that space of being like, I can't, you tell yourself you can. I can. And it doesn't matter. What's the worst that can happen? It fails. Yeah, and we nearly every day you have a failure of some description in something. You recognize them, you acknowledge what you can do differently, you take the good from the failures and you move on, and you keep going. I'm on my fourth business, and I'm I would not be doing this unless I was driven and determined, but also very purpose led. For me, it's all about leading with impact and purpose and driving that vision forward from that place. It could never just be about profit, because it's
Mm.
just not going to get me out of bed in the morning.
Yes, and I love that, and I think that's something that really resonated with me and with you, and just how you are purpose driven now. But there are, and I had a chance. I looked at YouTube and I was like, wow, there is plenty of YouTube videos. You can look it up of Lindsay before she became like where she's now driven with purpose driven, but
Oh
where
yeah.
she's helping brands and she's interviewing people and I mean, there's tons of videos out there with her doing these type of things. And so I want to just say to those who are listening, as she talks about imposter syndrome, and I totally agree, you just gotta go for it. And I think that is really hurting a lot of us entrepreneurs, creators, and it just holds us back. And I'll just say, in regards to this conversation, when I looked at Lindsay's resume, when I started reading her about page, one of the first things that comes to mind is there's no way this woman is going to give give me an interview. There's no way. When you look at all the things she's done, those things, they just it seems surmountable, and but lo and behold, just having a conversation, reaching out, it was like, sure, I'll do the interview, and now we have a connection, and and it's doable. So I just totally agree with all of that what you said about with imposter syndrome.
Um, it's interesting because we talk about moving forward, and I've been in Bali for 3.5 years, but we're now scaling up the company across America. So
Mm.
I said to you about we've been in Denver, Colorado, doing our Unite on Purpose Summit. We are going to DC, and then we're going to New York. And my plan is, and this is live, Brian, on your show,
Come on.
I'm, I'm giving you the scope.
All
I'm
right. Come
planning
on.
to move to America at the end
Really?
of the year.
Oh, Lindsay's gonna be reachable in America, guys. Yes. So this is brand new news that you're sharing live.
It's brand new
Oh,
news that I'm sharing live, and
oh man.
yeah, with the plan is to move to the States at the end of the year because I build purpose-led businesses to
Mm-hmm.
impact change in the world. And at the moment, the gap and the need that goes across America, when I tour in Denver, Colorado, I saw so much energy and but also people wanting to know what to do, how to do it, how to
Mm,
build purpose-led. And they were looking for hope. And, one of the biggest things that happened when I taught the school with the 80 businesses was that people walked out going, oh my gosh, I can now see a pathway forward. I can see how we can lead with impact and purpose, but still drive a commercial return. And we teach people how to scale up a company to impact change, but increase the valuation of the company. So the plan is to scale it out across America
wow.
and
That
go
is
across America and Bali over the next year.
wow. That is some amazing news. Exciting news. Happy to hear that. Wow. All right. And you say
You
you'll be
got
in
the
DC.
scope.
What's that?
You got the scope
I got the
on your
scope.
show.
Man, I got the scope on my show. Look at that. I feel privileged. Wow. Okay, so you'll be in DC and New York. I don't know. Maybe I need to find your schedule. Maybe we can connect and maybe I can get out there to DC or New York.
Well, that's why I was thinking, get you out there for the summit.
Yes,
In
yes, yes.
September will be the DC one, and November will be the New York one.
Okay, yes. I'm gonna get my schedule together and to see if I can't come out there to connect with Lindsay. Listen, all right. So if you're getting value out of this, of course, make sure you like this video. And we're talking about how creators and entrepreneurs can create something meaningful and purposeful with Linzi Boyd. Okay, so we have a few comments in the chat that I want to get to. Mr. Raphael Roker is here. Hello, sir. How are you doing? Appreciate you being here. He says awesome conversation as well. He also gives the fire emoji as
Thank
Lindsay
you.
as Lindsay drops the jewels on us. All right, we got a question here from Mr. Jeremy Reeves. He says, "My question is, how do you build a business with no cash, or is that even possible?" And I got the perfect person on here to give us some jewels on that. So, Lindsay, what do you think about that question?
Of course, it's possible. So, if you were listening into the interview, I said to you, you have a mindset of I can. So, I've always you were always able to side hustle something or be able to build something, create partnerships. We heard about having conversations. So, if you can put yourself forward and have a very good vision of what it is you want to do, be able to articulate it, lead from a place of purpose and impact. Don't go from a space of commodities, but actually engage people from an emotional connection rather than just a product benefits connection, then you'll be able to create partnerships and relationships and get to do something with your business and scale it up so people will invest in you, buy into you, or be able to work with you to build out what it is you want to do. But the most important thing is that you connect emotionally with other people and you don't drive it from just a commodity standpoint.
Mm. Wow, that is some juicy nuggets there. Being purpose driven, but it is possible, like she stated. I think I like the idea of not just going into a business for commerce, but trying to connect with people emotionally and and just trying to connect with them emotionally. Not only that, but have some type of purpose in regards to doing the business. That is awesome. Great question, just Mr. Jeremy. I'm sure a lot of people have that question. Like, where do I even start? All right, so
Always.
I want to kind of shift gears. We'll come back to maybe some of the purpose driven and how we can do it. But I want to shift gears, kind of going back to London Tech Week, of course, and you even mentioned it talking about AI, right? AI now is the big thing where you have a lot of companies using AI, and of course, some companies, sad to say, a lot of employees maybe have, their positions are being challenged because of this technology. Um, you know, as far as businesses, with the rise of AI, it seems technology is disrupting the job market. What can businesses do to embrace AI technologies but yet remain purpose driven? Relying on those human skills. What do you think businesses can do?
Look, we've built out thousands of businesses on our One Earth global platform. And we've been teaching them for many years to switch over to be a 21st century business model. So to be leading, obviously, with impact and purpose, but to be tech enabled. And in this AI driven world, you now have the biggest opportunities because there's loads of market gaps. There's ways within which you can now create market needs in the market and get people to buy into something that you're doing because the market has not caught up yet with AI. And so there's opportunities all over the place. The other side of it, from a work perspective of the people inside the organizations, you heard me talk about the beginning of this podcast. I interviewed an astronaut at London Tech Week, and the conversation I had with her were the jobs of the future. And, you know, because AI is here, there's a huge opportunity of creation of new jobs. You now see chief AI officers, and you will see so many new jobs being created, and so many jobs that are being taken over by AI efficiency. But because of that, it creates a new space for new skills. So, when I spoke before about creativity, creativity is now one of the leading things that you're going to need to be able to scale up a business because you're not thinking linear anymore about your business model. You're thinking about what's the problem that I'm solving. So, if you're a graphic designer, how do you go out and create something bigger? Because you don't need lots of people working inside the organization. You can have AI bots. So, creation of new skills, new opportunities is there if you can think visionary, creatively around new spaces and what's coming next. And you just have to look around the world and look at what the opportunities are and where the gaps are, and then start to put yourself into new gaps.
Mm, interesting perspective for sure. Yeah, because AI, I mean, it's here to stay. So we got to find ways to embrace it, not only embrace it, but use it to our advantage, as you state. Is that
For sure.
something that, because I think there was, I remember you having those businesses come on and come aboard. I was actually going to try to join that, but I think, of course, with my time schedule, I couldn't. Being that you guys were like what are y'all, like 6 hours? I think you were in the UK at the time. Y'all were like 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
But is that something that you help entrepreneurs and businesses with to, try to figure those things out?
Yeah, so look, I 14 years ago, I found purpose. And like I said, I wanted to shift the world into a new era. And I started to run these business schools around the world. And, I taught for the London Mayor's office for 3.5 years, teaching them my model. I taught for the London Stock Exchange how to build brand equity value to IPO, and basically started, and I ran all my schools. We built our tech platform, One Earth Global, and we've had thousands of businesses go through the platform, and they come on the platform and they're literally able to go through these programs and switch their business model over to be a 21st century business model. But they're leading with impact and purpose. So what they're doing is they're trading with each other on platform with businesses around the world. And look, I've been speaking on stage for like 14 years, talking about the purpose economy being the fastest growing economy for the next 20 years. And so, if people adopt building purpose, but also you have to now adopt technology, it has to be underpinned with AI, with all different types of technology through the business model, which is what we teach you to do. So we teach you to become tech enabled, how you're driving that through the end to end of the business model. And we have these programs running around the world. And we have strategic partnerships in different areas around the world where people can join these programs.
Awesome, awesome. Listen, if you are not connected to Linzi Boyd, I'm going to share information, of course, later in this interview, but
Please.
get connected with her because I'm telling you, she is definitely a great business mind to follow. Not only follow, but just if you can connect with her, if you're an entrepreneur and you need some advice, she definitely is willing to help. And that's what I love about Linzi is that, like she says, she's not just rambling saying purpose driven, like y'all are hearing this purpose driven. She's not just rambling, she's all about that, right? She's all about helping people. So that's what I love about her and just, her platform and just how she's driven to help entrepreneurs. So that is kudos to you, Linzi, for all the great things you do. But in regards to purpose driven, some people are hearing this. What is she keeps saying purpose driven, purpose driven. How can someone, they're starting business, how can a entrepreneur or a creator, how can they become more impactful through purpose?
Brilliant question. So I've been going out saying, come and co architect the new world. We're now living in a new world, not just AI driven, but all different areas, which was what I said. There's loads of market needs. And when you come, if you were wanting to come through the platform, and I wanted to invite all of your audience to be able to get a QR code from me where they can come onto my platform and be able to do the first layer of the quiz, to be able to audit their business and understand where the gaps are, to switch over to be a 21st century business model. But when you come through, we're looking at 5 layers of your business model. We're looking at your brand layer and understanding, are you building the business from the business brand and the people brands and your purpose? And are you engaging with people from an emotional connection and not just selling them the products and benefits? We then connect that layer to the product layer, and we help you to understand the tangible products. So, do you have a phone? Do you have whatever it might be that's tangible, physical? Or do you have an intangible product, which is data, digital technology, learning platforms, and how you design an integrated revenue system so you're driving off both? How you're able to understand how to drive short-term income into the business and long-term income, but also drive short-term equity value. So you're building assets in the company, like your brand is an asset, data is an asset, partnerships, digital culture is an asset, and then how you connect that to your channel system, your route to market. And then from that, how do you build a sales process around that? What's your pricing, packaging, positioning? And the most important, how do you campaign that? So,
Mm,
how do you go out to market and switch your business from brand led to movement led? So, I built thousands of famous brands, for 17
mm,
years.
yep.
G Star, Superdry, Wrangler, Lacoste. I was behind a lot of those brands, and I've been teaching people how to move from a brand to a movement, and how you can literally lead your industry or society, your cause, into a new era and architect this new world using this 5 layer method that we have. And you're able to adopt that and put that through your business model.
Mm, wow. That is awesome and amazing. Awesome and amazing.
Thank you.
So it's possible, right? So it's possible for someone to have that these layers, be purpose driven, and also, of course, have the economic side of it. So it is possible.
I mean, it has to, you can't build a business. So the biggest problem is people go out and use purpose as a marketing strapline. Or they're building a commercial business and they haven't connected it with purpose. What I taught people and have taught thousands of businesses, big and small, is that you bring both to the table. So you build out the purpose and the impact and the vision through your business brand and the people brands, but you also build out the commercial model underneath that. And that has to be through an integrated revenue system, the channel system, the sales process, and then how you resource that, how you bring in financing and so forth.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
without building both sides, you're either a not-for-profit that's not making any money and having to go out and spend 90% of your time getting grants or sponsorship, or you're a commercial business that's not able to create pull in the market, attract the market to you, because you're leading too heavily with a push
Mm,
business model, one that's just selling products and benefits and then having to compete in the market with everybody else. And that's when people switch off from your business and they're not interested in you know um, what you're doing, because there's such a competitive market with so
right.
many different people in it.
Right. Ooh, yeah, that's true. So I want to ask in regards to like your switch over. You've been doing this purpose driven for some time now. So how how are you able to, I guess, continue it? Because there are companies that are they're just driven, for just commerce, which we know is out there. So how are you able to continue to sustain this purpose driven drive that you have, and continue to be a voice out there? How are you able to sustain that, Lindsay?
So, look, I decided to switch over 14 years ago to be a purpose led business model and build out my technology platform and all the programs. And then I have been traveling around the world as a global speaker. So, what we committed to doing was one earth with 1 billion purposes. And so I have been speaking on stage. I was in New York with the YPO and the United Nations. I was also in a couple of weeks before that, I was in Denver, Colorado, where we created the Unite on Purpose Summit, and we ran the workshop for inviting 87 businesses in the room. But then I was in Melbourne doing the closing keynote for the Economist magazine. I was in doing the World Congress in Melbourne. So at London Tech Week, co-presenting that. My whole thing has been about how do we create these conversations? How do we get the message out there? But also putting my platform and programs. And now I launched a fund, which is very new, and we launched that in Arizona. So my fund is there to be able to support businesses that are what I describe as the uninvestables, the businesses that are doing all the impact and not being able to get invested. And so we have a fund attached to us, and we have the business programs. And for people that want to be trained in our model, we also have a franchise where we're able to train people in the model, and you can run your own business schools in your own city or country around the world. So that's how I've managed to scale it up, where we have a fund. I have my Uma Terra Foundation that supports businesses with a bursary if they can't afford to come through the programs.
Hmm.
We have my platform, which has all the programs on it, One Earth Global. And we have the One Earth services that trains people in the model so that they can deliver the method to their business communities.
Ooh, awesome. Yes. Listen, I'm telling you, if you need to get connected to Lindsay, she definitely is a source, a brain. She's definitely a voice out there to assist entrepreneurs in wherever that journey is for you. She is definitely a voice out there for that. So, Lindsay, I want to ask you in regards to a person's I guess their voice and their vision. There are some people that think their voice doesn't matter. Why does our voice, our vision, why does it really matter? Right? Because like I say, some people don't think their voice matters, but why? Why does my voice, why does your voice, why does it matter when it comes to our visions in a matter to business?
Brilliant, brilliant question. Thank you for asking me that question. I am
Yes.
so happy about that. And the reason why I'm happy about that is I've recently been creating a docu-series around ordinary people doing extraordinary things because for
Mm,
the last 14 years I've had the privilege of being with these ordinary people. The nurse in Bali who supports 2,000 people who are in the kind of mental health or people that are, got skin diseases, and her company supports all these people. We are showcasing her because she has done the most impactful work across the whole of Bali that would not be there unless she was doing it. There's a pet shop owner that had a pet shop in Halifax, and he went on to be the top 100 person on Facebook. His name's Rodney Habib. He came in our Canada school, and there's a lady that was in New York. Her name's Claudia Edelman. She's now one of the biggest faces standing for the Hispanic nation. When I met her, she'd just come out of the UN. She was, more of a diplomat. There's another lady in Bali who has a bag range and she's supporting 475 families. Stella is her bags, and she's been helping to keep ancient wisdom and joining up supply chains so that you're not just having to manufacture in factories. So all of these people, and I've got thousands of them, a bee man that's in Australia,
mm,
all of these people were very ordinary. They were normal jobs. They were doctors, they were pet shop owners, they were nurses, beekeepers, and they have gone on to do these extraordinary things. So if you think that you're just an ordinary person and why
mm,
does my voice matter, you need to think again, because I've worked with my whole space is ordinary people.
mhm,
All these people that end up coming through our programs that we help scale up go on to do these extraordinary things. And you would look at them now maybe and go, oh yeah, but they've now got big following. And actually, when I met them, they were tiny. They didn't have anything at all, but they had a belief that they could go out and do this incredible work and build a business around that, build a movement around that, that could go and actually make money, but also do good in the world. My whole thing has been, where are the ordinary people? Let me work with the solar panel companies and the engineers and the doctors and the
yeah.
dentists. That's my space,
Yes.
and they're the ones that are going out and doing all this extraordinary work. It's not the big, you look on social media and you're seeing all these people that are online, and actually the heroes are the thousands that I'm working with. They're the ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh, that is amazing. Oh, ordinary people. That's what see, and that's why I love these conversations because like she stated, she's working with ordinary people. Now, just last week, like I shared the pictures. I mean, look at the pictures that I shared last week. These are the people that she got to interview. I mean, we're talking about international companies, right? Linzi is an international speaker, author, of course, but she also makes the time for just ordinary people, and that's what I love about her
Most of
platform.
my time,
Yeah.
most of my time is that, I have to say. And I love that space. For me, if we can help people that are just in the normal jobs creatively, and obviously we have the model and the system, right? So we
Hmm.
help them to scale up pretty fast. But if we can get behind them, I always say I'm the lady behind the brands. We're not the brand, right? And my best space is when we help them to scale up and shine and be the voices of their industries and communities, because that's how you make the change in the world. That's when you see this incredible change happen and we co-architect this new world together.
Mm. The new world. Yes, I love it, Lindsay. I love it. Let's get to this comment here. Mr. Jeremy says, definitely need business training of how to use your method to start a business. I think a lot of people are there, right? They have great ideas. They have obviously they're talented and they just don't know where to start, how to start a business. But of course, I got Lindsay here. Lindsay can help with that. Connect with her platform, of course, and she also announced great news that she's going to be coming to the states, moving to the states
I am.
by the end
I
of the
need to,
year.
I need to polish up my American accent now.
Oh no, no, I love your UK accent. I love that. So, but no, but yes, she definitely has the insight to help. But a lot of people are there where they just don't know where to start, how to begin, and they just, I think, have fear, and maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe like like the question I just asked, why our voice doesn't matter. But like you state, you're helping ordinary people that we won't even know. A lot of those people in London Tech Week, they're well known, but you're helping people that just ordinary people, which is amazing in itself. So kudos to you, Miss Lindsay. Kudos to you. All right. So I want to ask. I got an off the wall question, but I think you can answer it. So if I don't like people, how 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 impactful can I be? I guess the other side of that, why is it important to because I know this is part of the purpose driven, that you got to really be concerned and want to help people. But why is it important that we want to care, help people, but also the other side is that, how far can I go if I don't like people?
Great. And honestly, I would say 50% of my people don't like people.
Ooh,
So,
really?
I don't attract all of the, the sunshine yellow people that are out there in the world. I also attract, the people that are kind of sat there and they don't really want to engage that much with other people. But I would say nearly all of them, if not all of them,
Mm,
once they connect and remember who they are and why they're on the planet and what they're here to do in the world, they are able to go out in the world and speak eloquently about what it is that they're here to do. It provides a different type of confidence when you really remember who you are. This is not a marketing strapline. This is not some fluff around purpose. This is about your DNA, what you stand for, what you're known for. And that's where I get all people to start from. And then from that point, what we then do is design and build out their business models underneath that using all of my methodology, um, so that they have confidence, they know how to scale the business. But to be honest, unless they connect back in with themselves, most people won't go out. They won't go out and speak about things because they don't want to. They don't want to put themselves out there at the front. It's not something that they're interested in. But I say to people, who wants to be known in their industry for making a difference? And you can, as the viewers listening, you can go, do you want to be known in your industry for making a difference? And most hands go up when I do this in a room and I'm speaking to 300-400 people, if not all hands go up. And then I say, who wants to be known outside of your industry for making a difference? And I would say about 60-70% of the hands go up. And then I say, who wants to be known in the world for making a difference? And maybe 40% of the hands go up. So then
mm,
I ask, what do you want to be known for? And
mm,
how do you want to leave people feeling? And if you get into that space and really connect back into that, then you realize that fame is a 4-letter word that's stopping you from getting somewhere because you don't want to be famous, right? You don't want to be out in the world being seen. But when you connect back in with, well, what do I want to be known for? And how do I want to show up in the world? And what is it that I'm going to put myself forward for? And how do I want to leave people feeling? Then it completely changes the narrative. And people, for the first time, go, would you talk about that? And they go, yeah, I actually would. That is what I would talk about. But would you talk about your commodity, whatever it is you're selling, the product and the benefit? No, maybe not.
Mm.
And that's how you switch people over from not wanting to speak to people and getting them in a space to speaking.
Yeah. Wow, that is a powerful question to think about. What do you want to be known for? What are you going to be known for? That is a powerful question. Okay, shifting gears. Actually, let me get to one comment in the chat. I think this is in regards to you moving to the States. My wife says, yes, and we would love to meet you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I said, we're going to be running our conference in DC the
Hmm.
third week of September and the end of November in New York. You are all welcome to either come online or come in person to the event, and I will collaborate with you to be able to, let
Yes.
your audience know how to come.
Yes. Sounds awesome. And I'm going to try to see if we can't get there in person to meet Miss Lindsay in
Yes,
person. We've been online friends, but we got to connect in person for sure. For sure, for
for
sure.
sure.
Yes. All right. So, Lindsay, kind of changing up gears. All right. So we kind of talked about business, and purpose. But in this, because I see a lot of posts. I see a lot of posts where you are really kicking back. So in this busy, chaotic, technical driven world, why is rest one of the most important qualities of good health?
Oh my gosh. It's the quality. It's the most important. Look, in your 20s, a few years ago, maybe you didn't need the rest
Mm,
that you need as you're getting older and you're running a business, running a family, being able to go out, travel the world, all this kind of stuff. But you realize that actually what a very smart guy said to me is put 3 months holiday in your diary
ooh,
first,
three
so that you
months.
have what I term brain holiday. It doesn't mean that you're on holiday and you're switching off your computer and everything, but you go into brain holiday. In brain holiday, you're thinking of a project that you're going to do. So I created my Race to Impact the World board game. I wrote my book, docu-series. I've done many different creative projects in my brain holiday. And I run my diary like an energy curve. So I make sure that I have me time. I I love sport, so I love my Pilates and my Legree. I know Legree is big in America. I love that. I make sure I have a walk on the beach because I live in Bali. I take my dog for a walk every morning. I have a coffee with my husband and my kids, and I I put those as priority in my diary over and above my work. Why do I do that? Because I know that my health is more important, and my time with my family and my kids is the thing that I will never get back. And
Mm,
I bring my kids and my family on trips with me. I spoke in Nepal in December. I was the opening keynote in Nepal, and my family came with, and they sat in the audience for 2 days. My son came to London Tech Week with me. They've been to Mauritius. When I've been to Mauritius and Cyprus and spoken there, I bring my family with me. So for me, that nourishes my soul. And rest, um, exercise, eating well, having time with the family, that is high up on my priority. and then building a business around a legacy. So getting my kids involved, letting them see what I do, being in the audience, helping them. When I interviewed the VC royalty that I mentioned, my
Mm-hmm.
son was behind camera and he was watching me doing the interview. He was listening to the podcast at London Tech Week when I was doing the podcast. He's 18 years of age. So it's a different education from what he would get in school. And it's the
Mm,
education of life. And for
right.
me, that nourishes my soul. That energizes me to have my kids with me, and that provides a form of rest. And then, traveling around the world, I make sure that I have a routine for rest. I
Mm,
put that high priority, and I know what my rhythm is so that I can fly and not burn myself out
yeah.
and stay energized and recuperated.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well said. Well said. Well said. I think those are probably the things that we all need to focus on, like you said, family and health, because we can't get those things back. So we definitely have to put those first. And I wanted to ask you that because I know, like I said, I see you post about that, but also too, I know you're a very busy person. You just wrapped up, London Tech Week, of course, but I know you're very busy. But I think rest is something that when we're trying to build a business, a lot of times we get so involved in the drive, we sometimes put it on the back burner. So,
It's the most important thing you can do. And when I get off stage for a week at London Tech Week, I'm now we have a summer house in England, and I'm here on more of a down week. So I'm not running around. I'm not doing loads of meetings. I'm having calls in the morning and then at the end of the day. And I have a week where I nourish myself. And that is so important because when you are busy, and look, you're building a business, it's chaotic. It doesn't matter whether it's big or small. You put 110% into building a business. We all know that. We're entrepreneurs, right? So you have to look after yourself and rest and eat well and exercise and make sure you prioritize your family, because trust me, they grow up and you don't get that time back. And basically you then wish that you'd blended in the family and the work and not just the work.
ooh, well said. Getting family talk from Lindsay today. Family talk and business at the same time. All right. All right. We got to see someone just joined us. All right. If you're getting some value out of this, make sure you like this conversation. I'm talking with Linzi Boyd. Of course, we're talking about entrepreneurs and creators, how you can make an impact and create something meaningful. And I think that's what we all want to do. Hello there, Holy Girl 25. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you. All right, we are. Man, this time has been going. We're almost about to wrap this up, Lindsay. I'm hating it's coming to an end. But so
Oh,
I know, right? So I want to talk about, because I saw you share this. I want to talk about these three qualities that has driven you as an entrepreneur and why these qualities can help entrepreneurs be successful even today. And that's resilience, kindness. Of course, we talked about that. You gotta like people. So that's part of that kindness, but resilience,
yeah.
kindness, and determination. Why do we need these qualities as an entrepreneur?
Resilience is crazy important because you get so many knocks, and it leads you back into your conversation of that imposter syndrome. Because like when you're resilient, it doesn't matter whether you get the no's or people tell you, because every day people will tell you that you can't. And that resilience will drive you forward, and the only person that's going to move you forward from the resilience standpoint is yourself at the end of the day. Kindness for me is, you have to be kind to people. I used to teach this in my consumer business, because I always used to say to people, you never know where anybody's going to go, right? And also karma around that. Like, just be kind to people, and then you'll get that back in droves. And look, we all have off days when you're grumpy or you haven't eaten enough or somebody says something and you're like, oh, come on, I've got to just get out of here and hurry up. But the reality is that you walk away from those moments and you don't feel that good about yourself. You always kind of sit in a place, or I do anyway, and go, yeah, I shouldn't have been like that. I should have given that more time, or I could have been more patient with that person. So kindness for me is a massive, massive commodity, and one that actually I work on with myself every single day. I don't think it's something that you're able to just lapse on. I think you have to be aware of that. And then driven and determined, I think that was in my DNA as a kid. People would say, you're not going to be able to do that, and I would be like, watch me. and 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 so I was incredibly driven, to
Oh
the
yes.
and not so that I would step over anyone. And actually, people say to me, "You must be very competitive," and I'm like, "Do you know the reality is I'm not. I'm very driven for myself." And to do the best and be the best version of me. But I'm not in an environment where I'm like this competitive person that has to go and beat other people. Actually, I'm not in that space at all. I drive myself. I drive who I am, and I look at myself and go, am I doing good in the world? Am I doing good for people? Am I making an impact? Am I helping people? And am I living by my values? Am I
Mm.
supporting my family? And that drive is, yeah, it's there every single day, and it drives me to build one earth with 1 billion purposes, so that we are literally architecting a new world. Because I truly believe we're in an environment now where there's a fork in the road. This was my talk in Nepal. If anybody wants to watch it, I can help them to watch that. But this was my talk in Nepal, and I said to them, you can either stay in the old lane, which was the 20th century mindset: ego, power, disruption, you know, um, everything about follow me, I'm the best. Or you can choose this new pathway, this new world, which is moving from the I to the we, from competition to collaboration, from coming together and connecting back in with your inner guru, being able to then connect with other people and help people along, and stop being in that mindset of power and destruction, and be in a power of creation and collectivity, like coming together as a collective and making a change. And when you go into that space, it's not about following people, it's follow yourself and connect with other people and collaborate with other people. But there's so much noise now out in the marketplace that you don't know where to turn anymore. And so the best place to turn is your intuition, your knowing, your inner self, and then connect and collaborate with people from that space, because that will be how you drive yourself forward, rather than always looking for guidance from somebody else.
Oh, wow. Yes. So powerful. Yes, yes, yes. I think you are definitely a driven person. I mean, you have all those qualities, but I think all of those qualities, all of us should adapt if we want to be successful. Resilience, kindness, and determination, of course, because we have to be determined to be successful. But kindness, I think, is key because, like you state, in order to connect with people, I think you have to be kind. You have to,
Yeah.
you know, show people that you care. And I think even for us, our first time connecting, I mean, you have showed me nothing but the ultimate kindness, and
And
even in reaching out this last time, you were like, "Sure, I would love to do it." I loved our conversation, and I did too. So, and I think that is where, like you state, that's where we are, where connecting with people and collaborating with people can be very beneficial. And you just got to be have that resilience and be determined. But Lindsay, you have really set the bar, set the mark today.
oh,
You've said so much value. All right. I want to ask you, what advice would you give someone? I know you said quite a bit already, but what advice would you give someone if they want to be an entrepreneur, but they're not sure where to start? They're like, Lindsay, I don't know where to start. You know, you got the people that don't believe in themselves, like we talked about. They don't believe their voice. My voice is meaningless in this world. Lindsay, what do you say to somebody like that?
I say to somebody, put one foot in front of the other. And why I say that to them is because, look, I'm on my fourth business. And, at the time when I started my first business, there were no mentors. And I just believed that I was going to do this. I was going to start this shop. I was going to bring these clothes in. I was my second one, the shoe company, the third one, building famous brands. This one now, my big legacy of building out the purpose economy and impacting change with all of these businesses. I never asked permission. It wasn't that I was going out and asking for people to give me confirmation or acknowledgement or tell me that it was going to be possible or make a space for me to do it. I just did it. I put one foot in front of the other. And, look, I am here as a resource. If you want to build a business out, then connect with me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on my linziboyd.com website, my new one that I've just got live, which is really lovely. We have a One Earth Global fund, we have a platform, but there's the resources there. But it doesn't matter how many resources I could put around you.
Mm,
The only resource that is going to get you to do it is you. It doesn't matter how many mentors you have. The only person that's going to mentor you is yourself. So you have to literally tell yourself you can and not worry about it not working. Because what you'll do is get the learning from that and put yourself out there and just build your brand to impact change in the world. And when you align it with what you want to be known for and how you want to leave people feeling in the world, then it'll get you out of bed in the morning when all's failing, because things fail every day. If you're building it off a purpose, then you actually get out of bed and go, okay, I can do this. And I'll get out of bed and I'll go again.
mm, well said. Well said. All it's gonna take is you. So I think that's probably one of the most, or I'll say that's probably the best out of all the information that we can take away from this conversation. That it all starts with just you, us, me, you, and until, like you said, until we put that one foot in front of the other, it won't get done. So take it from Lindsay. Listen, Lindsay, she left school at 15 and she never looked back. Of course, she was driven, but at the same time, you could be the next Lindsay. You know, what's stopping us? I don't think anything is stopping us. But
Oh,
Lindsay, this has been a invaluable conversation, and I want to thank you again for you just coming here to make the time, which I certainly appreciate because I know you didn't have to. I know you got a busy schedule, Lindsay, but you made the time to be here. And I want to tell you, thank you so much. Thank you, Lindsay, for being here. Okay, so for those that are watching, listen, go follow Lindsay. She's on pretty much every platform: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. But please go and follow Miss Lindsay. And she has plenty of resources too. But connect with her. You know, ask questions. I ask questions, and shockingly, I got a response back. So that's how we're connected and having this conversation today. But Lindsay, I know you've shared it, but maybe somebody's coming on late. What is next for Miss Linzi Boyd? What is next for Linzi Boyd?
well, next for Miss Linzi Boyd is we just launched a fund, and it's called One Earth Global Fund. And I'm very excited about launching that. It's in collaboration with our Uma Terra Foundation, and we are able to provide bursaries for people to come onto the platform and the programs if you can't afford to come on. But we're also going to be able to provide funding for people that are doing the impact and not actually being able to get the funding for their business. So that's really exciting. And then obviously I'm moving to America, and I'm going to be looking at how we bring the programs all across America. So we're kicking off our next summit in Washington, D.C. on the week of September 21st. It's the Unite on Purpose Summit. It's uniteonpurpose.com. And we just ran one in Denver, Colorado with PBS Television Network. And then we will be going to New York to do the same summit in New York. And we will launch our docuseries, which is The Quiet Revolutioners, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things, showcasing these incredible people, these ordinary people that have gone around the world and have basically built out these impactful businesses. So it's a busy year, but I would like to give a gift to your audience. So for people watching this, we would like to give a QR code. If you would like to come on the platform, it will give you access to the community. There's a few thousand people on the platform from around the world, but you'll be able to audit your business for growth with the QR code and use the quiz to be able to audit your business and see where the gaps are. So that's our gift for listening in today to your podcast.
Yeah. Ooh. Listen. Linzi Boyd. Listen. All right. Y'all heard it straight from her. She's going to give a QR code and we're going to share that, of course, and you can come on the platform and enjoy all of those benefits that she's sharing. Linzi, man, that is, and you know what? That's a surprise for me. I had no idea she was going to offer that today, guys. So, Linzi, I want to say thank you so much for being here. You have blessed us with so much valuable information, and I want to say I do appreciate you and just your purpose-driven heart, your platform, and all the amazing things you do. I want to say to all of those who are listening to this conversation, make sure you connect with Linzi, because like I stated, she is definitely a great business mind to follow. Of course, her platform has plenty of resources for those that are trying to be entrepreneurs or creators and you want to get ahead in business, but not only get ahead in business, but also you want to be purpose driven. She is definitely the key source for that. But Linzi, listen, we want to thank you again for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Linzi Boyd. Thank you. Thank you, Linzi. All right. So listen, guys, I appreciate you all for being here. Again, make sure you like this video. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. Go connect with Linzi. She's on pretty much every major platform. You can follow her. Also connect on their website. I guess whenever I get the QR code, I'll definitely be sharing that with our audience. But Linzi, I want to thank you again for being here. Thank you to everyone that was able to watch and tune in. And Linzi, hang on, and we're going to wrap this up. But again, hey, thanks, everyone. Hey, appreciate you all being here. Thanks for watching this amazing interview, and appreciate you all being here early. Doing it early, but Linzi's in the UK, so we had to make up some time. But thank you all for being here again. Linzi, thank you again for being here. Any final words, Linzi, before we close out?
Look, if you're really wanting to build a business to impact change in the world, then connect with me on my linziboyd.com website, and you'll be able to see all the different services. If you are a smaller business, we have a foundation, the Uma Terra Foundation, and we can provide a bursary for you to be able to come through the platform and the programs.
All right.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, no.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've loved reconnecting back in with you again.
I know.
Wonderful.
It's been 3 years, so we will stay in touch for sure. Try to connect again and try to see you in DC or New York. That's the plans. Yes. So we're going to try to make that happen. But Linzi, thank you again for being here. Thanks everyone for watching. Linzi, you stand by, and hey, we'll see you all in the next video. Thank you. Take care.